guys, how you guys all doing today? My name is Zach and welcome to a brand new segment over on this channel. I'll be diving in and comparing either books, movies, to their original predecessors to anything that is being remade. With the release of Tim Burton's brand new reimagining of the 1941 classic Dumbo, I thought it would be a great time to start this segment and to dive in and compare the two and kind of which one's better, which one's worse, and also just kind of dive in. And what are the differences? Which Tim Burton things did he add in here? Which did he take away? And which things do I wish he would have touched on a little bit better? Make sure, guys, to strap in, get your popcorn, get your candy, because we're going to go diving in deep, giving you guys all the Easter eggs that he happened to put into here, and really just shine a light on some of the great things from the 1941 and the 2019 Dumbo. So, without further ado, let's get straight into this.
And of course, be prepared, this will be spoiler-filled.
From the beginning of the film, of course, it's the birth of Dumbo. And if we look back at the 1941 version, we don't see nature really taking its course just yet. We see some storks flying off with some babies that they're carrying, singing a lovely, good, jolly old song till one of the storks lands on the train to give baby Dumbo to Miss Jumbo. One of the things that really stuck out to me this time around was, I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get any of the singing or any of the happy birthday. I actually wish Tim Burton would have embraced more of that kooky animated stuff from the original. I wish it was more of a shot-for-shot kind of take of this type of scene, because it really is just, okay, Miss Jumbo gives birth to Dumbo. From when we're looking at the 1941 classic, the elephants are actually talking just a little bit, trying to tell the stork to come over here. In this film, we get none of the animals talk at all. Some of the elephants talking in the scene, of course making fun of Miss Jumbo's child, Jumbo Jr., or later known as Dumbo. Also get the stork singing the wonderful happy birthday song in the beginning of the film.
Birthday, dear Jumbo Jr., happy birthday.
And even goes even further down the road into the 1941 classic of how Dumbo actually got his name. From the mean girl type of style elephants who were just kind of making fun of Dumbo for his overly large ears. We look over at the Tim Burton version, that's not how Dumbo got his name. She got his name during the debut of Dumbo in the circus. Of course, Colin Farrell happens to put a little bonnet over him to hide his little big ears. Well, I don't even know why I just said little, but yeah, his big ears. Of course, little, cute, adorable baby Jumbo Jr. just happens to see a feather, sneeze, blows him out of this little baby carriage, his bonnet comes off, and everyone starts laughing at him and harassing him over his big ears. Tons of chaos happens. The sign above him that said Jumbo Jr. breaks, the thing comes down, says Dumbo, and the crowd starts screaming Dumbo at him. The tears start to well up in this scene. And of course, Miss Jumbo comes out, starts attacking people, and she gets locked up into the mad elephant cage, just kind of like the original. And brings us to the next course of action, which is the baby mind scene. Now, of course, we don't get the actual lullaby thing of her rocking Dumbo back and forth, but we do get her petting his head just a little bit. I kind of wish they would have went with the rocking sequence. I think that's one of my favorite sequences from the original 1941 classic, but also instead, I was really happy to see that we did still get the one song from this. This is actually the only song from the original 1941 version that actually appears in Tim Burton's, but people actually singing in 2019 version is a circus crew. They're sitting there, sitting around a campfire singing Baby Mine. This is still one of the most emotional films in the scene. I still think that 1941 classic scene, though, is one of my favorite things that Disney has ever created on an animation standpoint. If I'm getting into one of my biggest gripes of this 2019 version, I actually mentioned it in my review, is that this film treats Dumbo kind of how the Transformers treat the Transformers in their films. He's the secondary character and we're going to focus more on the humans. Not as bad by any means. I mean, the characters are very cliche and their motivations and their story is something that we've seen very much all the time before, but I really wish they would have touched Dumbo's story and progressed it in a different type of light. The first film, in a sense, even though there are people talking, it overall is a silent film for the animal protagonist because the original film does focus on the animals, and I wish this one, it actually focused more on the animals. But animals in the 2019 version actually do feel like a little bit of an afterthought, and that made me really sad to see because the crucial moments of the animal, the cruelty that they tackle, and even though this new one does tackle some of the animal cruelty and the abuse of sitting them in cages, I think the 1941 version actually did it better. Some of you guys might be saying, well, if it's not the human protagonist, who's going to lead the story? Well, here's my thing. They didn't even have my boy Timothy in here. Come on, Timothy is one of the most iconic Disney characters of all time.
Too bad you don't trust me. Because I thought, well, you and me, we might get your mother out of the clink.
Like, Timothy is the man. He's a motivator, he's a caring, loving little mouse, and yes, we do get a little bit of a nod to him because the youngest daughter in here of Colin Farrell is carrying around a bunch of mouses, and one of them is dressed like Timothy, and I was waiting the whole film for Timothy to just talk. Come on now. One of the cool little nods that I actually think they did a really good job on in the movie, and even though they disappointed me on the Timothy part, they still had the Casey Jr. train, which was awesome. I love the Casey Jr. train. I love that first song that they do have with it in the original Dumbo, and they still have that song actually overplaying one of the montage sequences earlier in the film that I wasn't the biggest fan of. It actually reminded me of how, like, when earlier in the days when you turn on a DVD and you're sitting on the main screen waiting for like your whole family or friends to sit around, and it's kind of just fading through like certain sequences from the film. You're seeing the whole film, and that's actually what it felt like. It was like really montaging through like where the circus is going, and it felt really weird, but I understand why they put it in there as a nod to the Casey Jr. to show the train a little bit, show a little bit of the greatness of live action of it, and of course having that original song play in the background. Now, I remember when Tim Burton did get signed on to Dumbo, a lot of people were like, this is an excellent choice of directing because of the pink elephant scene from the original Dumbo film, which is just spectacular. Don't get me wrong, in the new 2019 version, I think the pink elephant scene, while not as iconic as the original classic version, I think Tim Burton did a really good job, and the visual interpretations that he actually did for this one were very unique, to say the least. Of Dumbo getting drunk or on some sort of substance to see these pink elephants, it's just his opening act, like before he comes out to debut in Dreamland, which we'll get to in a second about what Dreamland is. In today's society, I feel like people would kind of get mad if they still made Dumbo get drunk. I wouldn't have personally get mad. I would have liked that they took that same interpretation, but again, the pink elephant scene in the new 2019 version is visually appealing. Not as classical as the original animated film, but I think Tim Burton put his own flair to it, and all the bubbles and everything that he did with it was very unique, to say the least. I did mention Dreamland, which is one of the new segments of this Dumbo film that was not in the previous 1941 version. The thing about this film is that even though I like to say this isn't a live action remake, this is more of a reimagining of Dumbo 1941, because the first act very much is the original Dumbo film, taking some liberties, and the rest of the film does have certain little moments to it that are callbacks to the original Dumbo. But this is very much a sequel to that original story. Circus gets bought out and taken over to Dreamland, which is owned by Michael Keaton's character. Dreamland is like a 10 times kookier version of Disneyland. It's funny to see how like Dreamland sucked in this carnival, because at the same time of this film getting debuted, in the same week, Fox got sucked into Disney. Pretty unique coincidence, to say the least. Themes of greed and abuse that this back half of the film actually touches on a lot, that the 1941 version only really stretched a limit to. It was nice to see that Tim Burton did put those themes in there, because there are messages that these kids can now learn from. The weird parts about the 1941 version is there's a little bit of a slavery thing kind of going on. I don't exactly know if that's how it was taken, but as doing research into this and just how I interpreted it, it looked like slavery. Tim Burton did do the right choice of diverting away from all that stuff and getting into the main crux of what Dumbo is. I will say I was a little bit disappointed to see the crows not in here, or their song of When an Elephant Flies. That is one of the best songs, if not the best song in the original Dumbo.
I see an elephant fly.
Of course, I know the crows didn't resemble the best thing, but I still missed them just a little bit because of their song being so enjoyable.
That was the moment that Dumbo learned how to fly as well, with Timothy and the crows. And even though in this interpretation the younger kids are the ones that really teach Dumbo how to fly, and I thought it was charming and cute, I wish the crows would have still been. And again, goes back to my main thing of saying, I wish this film focused more on the animals. That's my thing with Disney films, is being fantasized and washed away into these magical worlds. I mean, if they did a Robin Hood live action film from the classic animated film, I mean, they'd have to do animals, right? Seen tons of Robin Hood films with actors. I don't need another Robin Hood film with just normal humans. Yes, I know the famous line about horseflies and dragonflies is used by a ringleader at Dreamland, WWE's Michael Buffer, which I thought was really cheesy to have the guy who goes, "Let's get ready to rumble," pronounce Dumbo into the theaters. little too on the nose, I gotta say. We do look at the trailers for the Dumbo 2019, and even in the film, they do have the firefighter makeup and the clown makeup on Dumbo, which just looks so sad in this new version. Very much the same exact scene. Dumbo's talent is shown in the same way, dressed as a clown, but instead of being saved from the top, he's putting the fire out when the shit is going down. That is when he's faced to fly around and show the world his magical abilities with his big flappy ears. The big difference about this is, though, is this actually happens in like the first 20 minutes of the film, where in the original it happens towards the end, and that's again goes towards Burton telling the original film in the first act of the film and really moving on to a different story within the back half. A lot of you guys are wondering, what happens with Dumbo's mom? Yes, they do reunite at the end. Thank God, thank the heavens. Of course, in the 1941 version, we see Dumbo flying, and his mom has this awesome tricked out suite sitting in the back, praising her son as he's flying around in the sky. In this one, it turns out in Dreamland, after the mom had been sold off, she actually got sold off to Dreamland's Michael Keaton's character, and she was disturbed into one of these areas where she was this mad elephant that people were afraid of. Dumbo hears that, and the circus people start to say, we need to save them and send them back to the wild. End up unslaving these animals and taking them back to the wild and releasing them into the jungle, which was great. And I was kind of waiting. I was like, is Mowgli going to show up for a second? Are we going to get a little bit of Baloo thing going here? It's two different areas where the elephants are from and whatnot. But I thought it would have been a cool little like thing. Like, they need another universe, right? I mean, Endgame's coming up. If I'm being honest, I actually really like this ending more than the original 1941 classic. I liked that they released them back in the wild. And even though I think the original is cute and it's a classic film, I really liked what Tim Burton did with the ending of this film. I liked how he touched on it a little bit better and how he showed the, like, hey, we can unslave these animals and cageless animals is how we should go. And that's actually how Danny DeVito's Ringleader happens to go by the end. Dreamland burns down, and by the end of the film, he opens up the circus, but with no cages. If they have animals, there's no cages allowed for them. They let the mouses out. My boy Timothy, who's in the film, who doesn't even talk and barely has any screen time, shows up. He walks out. Monkeys are moving around, horses, and it's just overall an actual circus jumping around. Eva Green's character is there. Everyone's all there. It's a happily ever after story. And that's what Dumbo 2019 is compared to Dumbo 1941. This was a fun video, guys, to make. And if I missed anything, any other Easter eggs, any other sort of details, make sure to hit me down below and let me know what I missed. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. What did you guys miss? What did you guys pick out from this video? And overall, which version do you like more? Personally, 1941, it's still the classic. The Tim Burton version, it's good. It's fine. I don't think we needed it. But it was still, seeing Dumbo on the live action was still magical and wonderful, and I really did appreciate that. If you guys like this video, I'm going to plan on doing more of these, especially for Pet Sematary, so do look out for that. Thank you guys again so much for watching this video. I'll make sure to catch you guys soon. Guys, until next time, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for all sorts of geeky content over on this channel. Also, make sure to go over to Sandwich on Films for ways to see advanced movies early, like Us, Dumbo, and any other films coming down in the future. But guys, until next time, stay classy.